Let's go for our first question. Is there a limit for savings to supplement the difference? For example, if I use it to supplement the difference from individual to with a spouse income requirement. There's I can't say if there's no limit. We've had quite significant amounts that we've been able to supplement with savings, but I would still say that you should at least try that the majority is actually income earned from active income and not just from savings. Okay, hi Danny. So how can a self-employed content creator with multiple income streams qualify if they don't have a single main client? So what our very common workaround for this is that you have to create your own company. You have to incorporate your own corporation and then route the income earnings through that corp and then pay yourself outside of that corporation as someone who's providing services to the corp. That's the normal workaround for most of our clients in the same position. Next. Francis. Hi, Francis. If you're an OFW or you reside in a country other than the Philippines and that you said that a proof of self-employment is needed from the country of origin. Is it the current country where you are remotely working or in the Philippines? So usually it will of course, make sense. It will be from the country where you are currently residing or that you will have been residing at least 3 months before you actually submit the application. Cherry. So I'm a litigation lawyer with 3-year practice here in the PH. Hi, Panera. I've been employed by a law firm, but this year I'll be creating my own firm. And you hope to take any legal related works in Spain and God willing, hopefully eventually be a resident there. How do I do that? So it depends how you structure it, but similar to the content creator, it will have to be either the partnership. I'm not sure how you will structure it, if it will be a partnership or if it will be a normal corporation. But the same process will apply that you will have to engage yourself to provide services to the corporation because for every application, you always have to show on the opposite end that there is a company paying you because one of the core requirements is that there is a company and that company has existed for at least 1 year. Next. Hi, Anne. Okay. So you can just see my eyes right now. So I'm a fintech remote worker who only earns 1,500 USDT, and I have two questions. Not an issue, just has to be structured correctly. And then your monthly salary is lower than requirement, but I am paying taxes for amounting to 2,900 euro salary monthly, registered as self-employed, and my company does not hold my taxes. I'm a little bit confused. You only earn 1,500, but you are paying 2,900 in taxes. Maybe we have to discuss this separately on a direct consultation. But crypto earned salary isn't an issue. It's just how it should be structured. Is there any additional documents required for single parent applicant with dependent? Depends. So if the applicant's father or mother is the one who's bringing it, it depends. If it's the mother, and you come from a country like the Philippines and the child is an illegitimate child where the mother has primary custody until the age of 7, then it's fine. There's no additional document required. Usually we just prepare a memo on our behalf of our clients for this. But if, for example, the father is named on the birth certificate, then you will have to have a notarized and apostilled affidavit of consent from the father to bring over the child. The same thing if it's the father that's bringing the child, but the mom is not moving with the child, then you will also have to prepare the same affidavit of consent. So it happens when not both parents are moving with the child. Next. Applying as a business owner, how do you go about that this year? Definitely more complicated. Before you could even accredit your own sole proprietorship. Right now, it doesn't look like that will fly. So it will be the same to the content creator example I shared earlier. So it's easier if you have an SEC registered company, and again, best if you work with someone who, if us for sure, to help you structure the application. But at least if not us, someone also very familiar with this because the DNV is actually a very niche visa, so not a lot of consultants are familiar with how to structure these types of cases. If we avail of the plan, hi Abby, until which stage of our application will you be assisting us? So for our application, for most of our applicants, I will assist you until you get your plastic residence card. Normally, what you will have to take care after is your social security and tax registration as an autonomo, but usually we refer you out to partner accounting firms. But most of our applicants turn to friends afterwards. So we do, there a lot of people still chat, still email, but officially our engagement will end once you have your plastic residence card. Hi Mimi. You're very welcome. I live in Singapore. How fast is it to apply for the NIE? Singapore usually 2 to 3 weeks. You can already get it. Mario, for applicants from the UAE, what document could be presented as proof of self-employment? Usually some sort of freelance or trade license separate for the individual. That's what we're doing for our UAE clients right now. And we've also already partnered with a UAE firm to help our applicants apply for it. Do you need to provide proof of taxation if your work is related to your degree? Yes. So before kasi, this proof of self-employed registration is a new requirement entirely separate from proof of work experience. So I want to clarify this so that people aren't confused. To prove that you qualify for the DNV, you can either prove that you have a degree or work experience, right? For work experience, you can use tax documents to prove that you have 3 years of experience. However, on top of that, you actually also have to prove if you're applying as self-employed, you also have to prove that you're registered as a self-employed individual. So they're two completely separate things. So the question is, do you need to provide proof of taxation if your work is related to your degree? For purposes of saying that you qualify for the DNV because of the degree, no. But for purposes of showing proof of self-employed registration in the country of origin, which is the Philippines in this case, then yes. Hi. If you reach the income requirement by doing overtime or via bonus, do you have to maintain that declared income throughout the 3 years? Or will the visa be revoked if you fail to meet the income requirement after visa approval? So safest is if you try and meet the income requirement on an annual basis, it's not going to be revoked automatically, but it might be an issue on renewal. Right now, we're not seeing it yet because on renewal, as long as you show that you meet the 3 months before you actually apply for the renewal, people have been getting approved. But that's not to say that they will again tighten this in the future. So I always try and say to our clients or to anyone who asks that when you prepare or when you think about your application or your continued residency, always try and go for the most conservative path because if regulations change, then at least you know that you are covered. Next. What were the situations causing inadmissibility? Just the for so For a digital nomad visa application, there are usually three results that you can get. So consider, which means that it was approved and you met all items. Estimar, if you were approved via administrative silence. Denegar, if you were denied because you failed to meet the requirements, or inadmitido, so inadmissible. The only time that the application that we've received was considered inadmissible is for those applications who came over on a 1 year DNV starting in September, and we submitted their application 60 days before the end of the 1 year. But as mentioned earlier, we were able to submit most and get most of all of them approved, except for now that we have three that are pending. Income from other EU countries do not count as part of Spain income. No, for purposes of continuing your residency, no. So you can work from any other EU country, just not for Spain, or at least not more than 20%. Is it possible to apply for the DNV if my current business is an Airbnb or transient rental in the Philippines? Will being physically based in the Philippines still qualify, or can managing the business remotely be considered since I travel outside the country most of the time? So we were actually able to get someone who managed their own Airbnb or transient rental business in the Philippines approved, but this was under the old rules where they accredited their own company. If you want to do this, you will have to again do the same workaround where there is a company and then you are getting paid by the company for services provided to the company. So it can't be the transient rental in and of itself. And doesn't matter if that's the sort of business that you are in, that will still qualify as remote roles depending on how the papers are presented. Okay. If the main applicant and dependent are approved in the UHE, but the dependent is in their home country, are the requirements to be submitted to the consulate and BLS the same as what was submitted to the UHE? Or how long is the wait? Very good question. So we have now done this in several consulates, notably Singapore, Moscow, Bangkok, and the Philippines. Now, under the law, or under most regulations, it's really just approval letter plus a few specific documents like criminal check, marriage, birth certificate, etc. And this has been followed by the rest of the consulates that I mentioned, except for the Philippines. So Singapore actually also. So for the Philippines, it's actually taking as if you reapplied for the 1 year DNV through them. So right now, the answer is same. Yes, if you're applying in the Philippines. If you're applying through another consulate, Singapore, Moscow, Bangkok, etc., then it's much simpler. So it depends again on which consulate you're coming from. How long is the wait? Depends again on the consulate. Singapore, I think we got that in 2 to 3 weeks. Before in the Philippines, we got it in 2 weeks. Now we have one that's pending for 3 months. For Moscow, we just the other one we got that I think in 4 weeks. I'm residing here in Dubai to prove my years of experience aside from a certificate of employment. What is an alternative to having a government supported document? So normally for OFWs, it's going to be a certificate from the Department of Migrant Workers. From the UAE, it depends if you don't have that. There are some documents that can be issued by certain entities in the UAE depending on whether you're employed with a certain free zone, etc. So it depends, but there is always going to be something there. I've been on remote work for more than 3 years. I've not been paying ITR since 2024. Do I need to provide 3 years of ITR, or I can register on the second quarter of 2026 and go to the UHIT in September to lodge my application? Again, this brings back the difference between using the tax returns to prove 3 years of experience, but also needing to prove that you are registered as self-employed in your country of origin. So to answer the second question, to show proof of registration in the country of origin, proof of self-employed registration, then you can use that turn workaround where you register this second quarter and then apply in September the UHE. But you will be missing a key requirement, which is the 3 years of work experience, because you not only need the certificate of experience for that, you will also actually need the proof of 3 years of tax returns. So probably you'll have to back pay at least 3 years of tax returns in that case. But again, if you want specific advice to your situation, feel free to book a call. Okay, I'm in the UK on a skilled worker visa. I have a part-time remote job. How do I go about this? Do I still qualify for the DNV? So this used to be simpler before they asked for proof of registration as self-employed in the country of origin, especially if you're employed. So it depends if the UK will allow you to register as self-employed even if you are an employment visa. I'm not sure if that would be possible, or if you have to do a credit registration in some other country like the Philippines, for example, and then use that registration for the application. Again, this is a tricky situation and best to consult directly if ever. Hi Chris, I want to bring my five small dogs with me. Should I bring them while applying in Spain or wait and fly them till I get approved? It depends. So if it's five small dogs, baka mahirap if you bring them agad. Better maybe once you're already approved. Hi Sheila. Okay, if someone has no proper education but it over 10 plus years experience in the same field with contracts, payslips, and wise receipts, is there any possibility? It depends. So if there's 10 years of experience with a local Philippine company, then normally there are documents that we can obtain from the Philippine Stock Credit List. But if those 10 years of experience were freelancing, where with you don't have any SS, you don't have any tax, then you will really have to at least try and back pay for at least 3 years so that you can accredit those 3 years of experience. So before, we were able to do it this way where we accredited with payments, wise receipts, etc. But now they're much stricter already, so it really has to be an official government document. When applying in Spain, do you have to stay near your office for 20 days? No, no. I mean, you can visit me. I really love meeting all of you, meeting clients, whether it's here in Valencia or otherwise. But no, so the entire application is done online. So all you have to do is actually arrive here in Spain. And then we will submit the application online once we have your entry stamp or proof of entry into Spanish territory. So the answer is you can, but no need to. Okay, for gay couples, is it advisable to have a marriage certificate from a country that is recognized, or an affidavit of cohabitation is enough? So we've had a lot of gay couples approved as well. So as unmarried partners, so it's not necessary. It depends on how involved you want to be in documentation, because if you're applying as an unmarried partner, you do have to provide so many things. You do have to provide the stability of your relationship. So if it is an option, if both of you are at that stage of your relationship where getting married makes sense for both of you, then it's really so much simpler, and I would suggest to do that. But if you are not yet there and you want to just do it through an unmarried partner route, then that's completely fine as well. Hi Maria. Okay. Regarding the residence authorization issued by the UHE, but the dependent is not it in Spain, does he or she lose months of the residence validity if the dependent has not yet arrived in Spain? Especially since no approval yet for the yes, for the type D visa from the consulate. Yes. So it will you will really lose it, because if you are approved, if the dependent is approved and hasn't flown with the main applicant, their residence approval starts immediately upon approval. So if they're not yet here, then of course they are losing those months where they're not physically here in Spain. Hi Michelle, you're a single mother and you are planning to include your children with your application age 24 and 19. Any suggestion or documents that I need to prepare specifically from the UAE? So okay, adult dependents, adult that these are also complicated applications. Proof of dependency, so normally like bank transfers, etc. Schooling certificate if they're still going to school. Proof that they don't have tax or social security benefits yet. So it's a long list. But effectively, that list will try and show that these are really still dependent on you, and they haven't gotten married, they don't have their own children, they don't have a family on their own. So those kinds of documents. Okay. Hi, Aubrey. You have a business, but it's registered to your mom's name in the UAE, but you're the one who is managing. Could that be valid if you apply as a DNV? Aside from that, I'm still working here in UAE. Yes, it's valid, but one of the recent changes is that you also have to have some sort of trade or freelance license in your own name to show proof that you've been registered as autonomo in the country of origin before you apply. Right. Do I have a chance for a DNV? I am a creative director or international photographer for 15 years with clients all over the Philippines and the world. My steady income is your consultancy work. etc. Right now, you have 10 to 15 clients with contract, and another source of income is I shoot anywhere around the world for destination weddings and events. Okay, so we have off tangent a little bit. We have a lot of couples who eventually get married in Spain, so that is also another possible opportunity for you. But as mentioned earlier, with most of the applicants, it will really be easier if you establish a company or if you register a company and then you pay yourself out as someone providing services for that company and bring all the other income for work for different companies or for individuals into that company itself, because again, one of the core requirements for the DNV is that you are working remotely or you can work remotely, you've been engaged by a company for at least 3 months, and there's a registered company that's been registered for at least a year. Hi, Paniera. How much is the engagement fee of Lakbyte? Okay. So it depends. Most of, I would say 95% of our clients goes for the standard plus package, which is 1,500 euros, and it comes with unlimited translations for your documents, your dependents documents, and documents related to one client company. Okay. Hi, Janice. About the Schengen visa. I have a valid visa until 2027 for 90 days. If I enter for a week, then leave the Schengen area, will it reset or will it lessen the 90 days for the year? Well, the 90 days is counted on a rolling back period. So every day you look back in the 90 days, whether you've been in Spain within that period. So depends on when the reckoning point is. So of course it will lessen the 90 days if you are here for a week, but then it also eventually resets. So for example, if you came here January, you stayed here for a week, and then you come back in, let's say, June, then your 90 days have all, of course, already reset by then. Danny, okay, if I create a company as a content creator, then should that company be 1 year old before I apply for the DNV? Correct. Very correctly observed. So this is why if you structure applications this way, and this will apply to all that asked us the similar question, so the one with the photography business, the one with the law firm, etc. The company must have been established for at least 1 year before you can submit your DNV application. Next. Claude. Once you apply for autonomo, do I need to start paying taxes in Spain and already stop paying in my home country, or should I wait for the 183-day tax residency? So once you start paying for autonomo, it depends on when you register, but for tax payments in Spain, it's done on a quarterly basis. So depends on which quarter you will fall under. In that next quarter's deadline, then you will then pay the tax. For Social Security, it's going to be paid monthly. Then again, when you're covered, that's when it will be charged. Because in Spain, for taxes and Social Security, it's actually auto-debited from your bank account. Meaning, when you even sign up as autonomo, you will nominate the bank account, because once your accountant or yourself files your returns, it will be auto-debited from that account. And then for Social Security, it just gets auto-debited every month. Mario. Common reasons for rejections, and is it possible to reapply? Thank you very much. Right now, it's for the UHE, it's very, very rare to be rejected. So usually people get rejected, and this is why one of the things that I will change moving forward is we will not recommend applying towards the end of November or the early December, because historically this is where massive changes in the requirements happen, and normally people will be able to prepare for this, but sometimes you really just can't catch up with the document because it takes so much time in the home country to prepare. You still have to get to the apostle, that also takes time. So a lot of it sometimes is timing issues, especially if new requirements are immediately imposed, because Spain doesn't use it on a prospective basis. And what I mean by that is that if they issue a change in the requirements, it's immediately implemented. So even if you've already submitted your application, you will always get affected. So That's why we say that try to avoid these periods, like moving for 2026. This is already explicit in our engagement letter as well as our onboarding guide to avoid this period to apply. um Whether it's possible to reapply, yes, it's you can reapply immediately as long as you have valid Schengen days. And then you can, that's not an issue, and it's exactly what we've done last year for those who were again affected by the changes at this time. So they reapplied and then they got it approved. Next, Kyla. Will there be any issues if I'm a full-time employee and I also do freelance or side projects to reach the income requirement? Yes, so you will not be able to combine your employment and your freelance income. It will have to be the freelance income, especially if you're coming from the Philippines. I don't want to assume, but it looks like you are. So you will have to become a contractor if you will be able to swing that for your full-time company, because that is a little bit of an easier ask, that you switch over and become a contractor versus asking the company to actually register a non-representative office here in Spain for you, to be able to move on the DNV and then to pay social security for you here. So for our clients in this exact same situation, it really will be have to be that you will have to make sure that all the income is contractor or as a freelancer, because you cannot combine employment and freelance income to qualify. Mark, is it possible to bring your cat after approval? Yes, of course. Very important. You should. You should. Do you only process DNVs or are you also open for student visas? We process primarily DNVs, NLVs, and citizenship. For student visas, we do usually if it's a former client and it's a direct referral. But for most of the student visas, it's actually pretty doable by yourself. But yes, we do help it if you need. So you can feel free to reach out at info@lakbyte.com. Ariel. Will there be an issue if I apply using my degree in electronics engineering as a professional requirement while working in IT? We've had someone approved in this exact same situation, so it should be possible. Okay. Follow up of your BLS dependent question. If the main applicant already has a TIA and dependent will apply in the BLS, are the documents of the main applicant needed to be submitted as well for the dependent's application? Yes, sometimes they ask for the financials of the main applicant. Hi, Sil. For crypto trader of my own, what document of can I provide? Is proof of crypto account enough as financial proof? No. Again, this falls under those types of activities where you're earning active income, but you will have to always course that income through a company and then have that company pay you to prove that there's a company that's been in existence for at least 1 year before you apply. Hi, Kath. Okay, you are freelancer for 3 years, but you're planning only to register as a self-employed this year. You have a bachelor's degree for proof of capability, and do you need tax documents to prove that you meet the monthly requirement apart from online payments? Okay, so as long as your bachelor's degree is related to what you're currently doing, then that is fine. Whether you need tax documents to prove that you meet the monthly requirement depends if you apply in the Philippines or if you apply in Spain. If you apply in the Philippines, yes, they will actually ask for at least 2 years of tax returns. If you apply in Spain, no. The only thing that they will ask, or the only thing that they've asked as of today, is the proof of self-employed registration. So that's what would differ. Gia. Hi, Gia. Would like to ask whether the monthly salary is fixed or adjustable or lowered. For example, if someone is sponsoring you or you stay with your relative already residing in Spain, can this also be a possible structure? No, this isn't like other types of general immigration visas. You really will still have to meet the income requirement, at least at the stage where you are applying. You can use savings to supplement it, or you can also use passive income. But again, at the point of application, these other considerations for sponsorship or housing will not be taken into consideration. we have a flat business in Dubai since 2023. Do you think we have a chance for DNB? Again, always has to be a corporate, as long as it's registered, and you can produce a business license or trade license or similar, and prove that that company pays you. Otherwise, you have to create such company. Then that should suffice. Okay, you are in the UAE and you have a client in the UK and you don't how you're not being taxed in the UAE, paano po yung tax document na need? Again, it depends. So, you need tax documents for two things. One is for the proof of 3 years of experience. So, you need 3 years of tax returns, for example, or 3 years of social security payments. The other is for proof of self-employed registration. If you have a degree related to your position, then you don't need the 3 years of tax returns. You will only have to show proof of self-employed registration, which in the UAE is some sort of freelance license or permit, depending on where you're located. Okay. For a family of three, my monthly income lacks 450 euros. I have more than enough savings for the deficit. 450 times 36, acceptable. That's fine. Okay. If the business is a sole proprietorship or a SEC registered company, if it's your own business that you're trying to structure as something that you are engaged with and that pays you, has to be an SEC registered company. And as much as possible, don't make it something that's similar to your name. So, for example, you don't say Marian Vanslembrouck LLC or Marian Vanslembrouck Inc. Make it like Lakbyte, for example. So it isn't obvious that it is owned by myself. So if this is for the purpose of showing that there's a company that's been registered for at least 1 year, definitely not a sole prop. Unless the sole prop isn't yours. So, for example, you're working for someone else that has a sole prop, then that's fine because we then show that they have been registered for at least a year. Okay, no worries, Maria. If dependent will apply sa ibang Schengen countries, it's approved na from UHE. Still the same issue. So this is the issue if you have a approval from the UHE while the applicant was outside. If you apply for a different Schengen country, it's possible, but you will have to repeat the entire process of applying for the dependent once you get here in Spain if you don't want to go through the BLS process. Okay, so it looks like we have finished all the questions for today. Thank you everyone for being very participative. And I really appreciate you taking out the time from your Saturday to meet and to actually spend time with us learning about the DNV. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at info@lakbyte.com or feel free to book a consultation. Thank you, everyone, and bye bye.